Tim Burton's 1989 Batman is an absolute classic. This film does an excellent job at capturing everything that Batman was in the 1980s when he was reinvented by Frank Miller through The Dark Knight Returns and Alan Moore with The Killing Joke, especially. It feels like the comic book brought to life. It was a much darker Batman, a Batman who kills. This isn't your Adam West Batman from the 1960s TV show. This film has some significant dark moments, however. At the same time, it's hilarious and highly entertaining. And the comedy is not at expense of the serious and ultra dark moments. In other words, the comedy doesn't cancel out the dark tone of the film, and this is primarily due to Jack Nicholson's performance as the Joker and the writing of his dialogue by Sam Hamm and Warren Scarron. This is a film that sets out to entertain, and it does so with enormous success. The intention for this movie wasn't to deliver some deep message about facing your fear or coming to terms with seeking vengeance and how this will make you just as bad as the enemies you're trying to defeat. This film was just pure fun and an absolute thrill ride, a masterpiece in art design and art direction. I can see many inspirations from the German Expressionism film movement, which Tim Burton frequently draws inspiration from, and I also see inspirations taken from 1930s and 1940s film noir. In regards to the 4K transfer for this release, it looks absolutely beautiful. It looks like the film came out today, and the colors are brilliant. Danny Elfman's score is the best Batman score in the entire Batman series, and all the other ones that come after are inferior by comparison, in my opinion. I love how Gotham feels like it takes place in this other gothic dimension where the 1930s and 1940s never ended. This is more or less evident, especially in the costumes. Tim Burton's Batman is more fantasy and less realistic, which I appreciate because we can use this fantasy approach as an opportunity to do things that were in the comic that we couldn't do if we were trying to depict realism. A little nuance that shows how immoral Gotham is when the prostitute offers her services to the young boy at the beginning of the film. The movie's opening foreshadows the events that ultimately traumatized Bruce Wayne and created Batman when his parents were killed when we see the muggers attempt to rob a family. Now, I love how Michael Keaton as Batman is silent and brooding. He says so much without saying anything at all because he emotes a strong screen presence. And he similarly does this as Bruce Wayne as well. Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne seems deep in thought and reflective. And initially, when he was cast, he was known as a comedian, and many people were apprehensive about his casting, but he surely proved that he was worth being cast as Bruce Wayne and Batman. Michael Keaton has a face that just looks like something intricate and something complex and powerful is going on deep inside his psyche. And I like that his Bruce Wayne is not so talkative and flamboyant as, say, the other depictions in this series. Now, a criticism for this film that I've heard is that there was not enough focus on Batman or Bruce Wayne and too much focus on the Joker. But I think less is more when it comes to Bruce Wayne and Batman because it creates a significant amount of mystery and mystique for the character that was needed, and it makes him feel ultimately more like Batman. You can also tell that this Batman has been around for a long time, and this is exemplified in his relationship with Alfred because there's very little bickering between the two compared to some of the other depictions in this series where Alfred plays a fatherly figure, and Bruce comes across as a little bit more inexperienced. Here, Bruce Wayne and Alfred seem on the same page and they feel in sync with one another and in agreement with one another as far as how Batman makes his decisions and how Alfred concurs with them. And even when there are minor disagreements between the characters, it feels like they agree to disagree rather than a father and son bickering, which has been depicted in other films in this series. Now, there was a composition where Batman spreads his cape apart and his body is covered by the backhead of the mugger, and it creates this composition that makes Batman look like an actual creature of the night. I love how the criminals of Gotham don't know whether he's merely a man in a costume or an actual giant bat. And it's very interesting to see that Billy D. Williams was casted as Harvey Dent, which they obviously went back on when they casted Tommy Lee Jones as Harvey Dent in Batman Forever. Race wasn't a consideration at this time, and nobody talks about this. So I find it kind of dubious when people get upset about race swapping in characters today. Batman has great dialogue, and every single line of dialogue that Jack Nicholson gives is either hilarious or entertainingly menacing. The screenplay by Sam Hamm is a knockout as far as dialogue goes. This version of the Joker is easily the funniest, and I dare you not to laugh your ass off at some of those lines that he delivers. The screenplay's greatest strength is easily the dialogue. Sam Hamm and Warren Scarron knock it out the park. However, I do have some minor negative criticisms when it comes to some of the plot points that come across a little bit cartoonish, and this will be addressed later on in the review. So, the main heart of the plot is that crime boss Grissom attempts to kill Jack, aka the Joker, because he was having an affair with his girlfriend. So, he sets up a false flag operation saying that Harvey Dent made a connection between Grissom and Access Chemicals. And he asks Jack to go destroy some documents at Access Chemicals. And then Grissom sends Lieutenant Eckhart and the police there to either kill or arrest him. Either way, it's a setup. Now, Batman and Jim Gordon try to intervene, but Jack gets his face mutilated by a ricochet bullet from Batman's armor and ultimately falls into a vat of chemicals and transforms into the Joker as a result of his madness when he sees his face and how it's been mutilated and that his skin has been bleached pure white. Now, Jack had a little bit of a reputation for being a psychopath, which was shown through some expositional dialogue between Jack and Lieutenant Eckhart. Now, I love how this scene, when Jack falls into the vat of chemicals and becomes the Joker, is inspired by the graphic novel by Alan Moore, The Killing Joke. Even though the Joker is not wearing the Red Hood mask, him falling into a vat of chemicals in a factory like this as a result of Batman intervening is totally inspired from The Killing Joke. Now, when the Joker sees his face for the first time after his attempt at plastic surgery, it is one of the most iconic scenes ever, and Jack Nicholson blows it out the water with his performance and terrifying laugh. I mean, everybody knows about that scene. Mirror! Mirror! And then he just laughs like a madman who can't believe what has happened to him. And this ultimately represented the ultimate transition between Jack into the Joker. Now, when the Joker reveals himself for the first time to Grissom, it feels like something taken out of the classic graphic novel The Dark Knight Returns. The cinematography and lighting and makeup really sell the scene as well as Jack Nicholson's performance. I love the way the Joker slowly steps out of the shadows to reveal his face. And Grissom asks, Jack? And the Joker responds, Jack is dead, my friend. You can call me Joker. And as you can see, I'm a lot happier. And he proceeds to brutally shoot him repeatedly. Another iconic scene. This film is stuffed with so many iconic scenes. I love it. And once again, the cinematography and the makeup and the camera work and the acting in the following scene where the Joker is sitting in the chair saying Gotham City, it always brings a smile to my face as he sits there with his sinister grin is beautiful. It feels like the comic book brought to life. And I love the scene when the Joker kills Anton with the handshake and electrocutes him with that gag. He electrocutes him into a charred body of skeletal remains. His laugh is so uncontrollable, it's almost like he's going to die of laughter. And then the following scene when he talks to the dead body and he hears the dead body's responses in his own head is so eerie, creepy, and morbid, and at the same time, hilarious. Haven't you heard of the healing power of laughter? Another iconic line juxtaposition with murder and mayhem. Now, when the Joker kills the gangster Vinny that tries to take over Grissom's operations and he kills him with a poison pen, it's another iconic scene and line of dialogue. The pen is mightier than the sword. Now, what the Joker did to Grissom's girlfriend was just awful and absolutely morbid. The way he hideously scarred her with acid in the name of art truly illustrates his insanity. It's very disturbing. The Joker considers himself an artist, a homicidal artist. It's one way to justify his disfigurement and the insanity as a result. So basically, he's rationalizing his insanity as the new aesthetic. Now, earlier on in the film, I love the nuance of the Joker card with the bullet hole in it, and the fact that Jack has a lucky deck of cards that saved his life when it stopped the bullet. It illustrates the chaos of luck that is so iconic for the Joker. Now, in regards to Vicky Vale, who is portrayed by Kim Basinger, she does an outstanding job as Bruce Wayne's love interest. She's not too imposing like Nicole Kidman's character was in Batman Forever, and at the same time, her presence doesn't feel forced, and she plays a good damsel in distress without being too helpless about it. She comes across as a classic film noir dame. She seems genuinely and sincerely caring of Bruce Wayne, and this is evident when she is upset that Bruce is hiding things from her, only to find out what happened to Bruce Wayne's parents and that they were killed. You can really see how much she cares about Bruce Wayne. And I love the scene when they're sitting at both ends of the super long dining table and they're so far apart that they cannot hear each other in conversation. This is representative of how distant Bruce Wayne is from other people. It shows how much of a reclusive he is. Now, another iconic scene from this film that I highly enjoy is when the Joker destroys the museum that Vicky Vale is waiting for Bruce Wayne at. There are some great lines of dialogue here, like when she calls him insane and he replies, I thought I was a Pisces. Now, I love the action sequence that follows once Batman arrives to save Vicky Vale. I love this classic Batmobile scene, and the Batmobile has a unique and classic look to it. It's sleek and it comes across as almost sexy. I love the scene when he fights the martial artist and wins by exerting the least amount of energy. For me, this is exactly what Batman would do to take somebody out like this. Now, I really enjoy the scene when Batman is driving Vicky Vale to the Batcave in the Batmobile and how he's just silent and he remains a mysterious, unreachable figure, even though she is sitting right there in this intimate position with Batman in his car. Michael Keaton's portrayal of the character and Tim Burton's artistic choice in depicting him in this way make him feel so mysterious, and it gives the character such a unique level of mystique. Now, despite my high praise for this screenplay's dialogue, there are some elements of the plot that are executed in a way that feels like a Saturday morning cartoon. And a great example of this is how the Joker was able to poison all the beauty products in Gotham. It just doesn't work in a real world scenario where beauty products are manufactured all throughout the country. In other words, it's unrealistic and it comes across like something that should be in a cartoon. However, the outcome of this plot point creates some epic moments, such as when the newscaster is killed on live television by turning into a Joker herself. This feels like a scene straight out of the Dark Knight Returns graphic novel, and its execution of iconic scenes such as this that make these plot points that seem cartoonish so forgivable for me. Another example of this is once Batman is able to figure out how to stop the Joker's scheme with the beauty products killing Gotham citizens by using chemistry work, the Joker tries to bait the citizens of Gotham to their death by using poisonous gas by baiting them with free money in a parade. Now, this is another element of the plot that comes across as cartoonish, especially since the Joker is a well known murderer and he was able to throw a parade in the middle of Gotham without any attempt at police intervention. Now, this element of the plot could have used a scene where the police try to intervene and maybe Joker's goons prevent them from doing so in some way, but nevertheless, I like the concept of the scene because it shows how amoral and immoral the Gotham citizens have become. They're entirely apathetic to right and wrong and willing to take free money from this homicidal, insane murderer. Now, these two issues that I have with this movie are literally the only criticisms that I have with this film because this movie has so many iconic scenes that feel like they were inspired directly from the comic. I love that scene where the Joker smashes the television and says, I have given a name to my pain, and it is Batman. Now, when Bruce Wayne is about to tell Vicky Vale that he is Batman, the Joker intervenes, and we find out that Grissom's girlfriend committed suicide. And again, we have another iconic line of dialogue that is both hilarious and extremely disturbing. The Joker says, You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs, in regards to her basically jumping off a building committing suicide. And another iconic line that I love once the Joker discovers that Bruce Wayne is hiding in Vicky Vale's apartment. Another rooster in the henhouse. And again, this film is just filled with so many great lines of dialogue and iconic scenes. I cannot show enough enthusiasm for it. I love the scene when Bruce Wayne tries to tell the Joker about his former self. He says, Let me tell you about this guy named Jack. Bad seed. Like to hurt people. And then the Joker responds, I like him already. And then we got Bruce Wayne. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. And to which we have the Joker say his most probably iconic line in the entire film. Tell me, my friend, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? Now, ultimately, this line of dialogue is what makes Bruce Wayne remember that it was Jack Napier, the Joker, that killed his parents because this line was spoken by the killer. Now, Bruce Wayne was lucky that the Joker shot him exactly, or he put that metal tray inside of his vest. And yes, I admit it's a little far fetched, but it's not the worst crime in movie history. And this flashback sequence where Bruce Wayne's parents are killed by the Joker is so brutal. The way that the Joker comes across as just heartless and pure evil, and the terrified look on that young boy's face and young Bruce Wayne's face, in my opinion, is the best depiction of Bruce Wayne's parents being murdered ever captured on film. It's truly disturbing and heartbreaking the way it was executed in this film. And what makes it even more disturbing is that the family looks so happy and wholesome before they were killed. And that grin on Jack Napier's face that foreshadows him being the Joker, that grin when he taunts the boy as if he's going to kill him and he holds that gun, pointing it at the little boy as he's terrified after he killed his parents, is just outright obscene and evil. Now, I love the continued notion that exists in this series and that is in this film, which is that the Batman and the Joker created one another. And even though this film takes it a step further by having the Joker be the one that killed Bruce Wayne's parents, it's still a universal thing that's present in the Batman series. Some people didn't like this decision, but I think it works well for the film and creates a significant level of excitement for the final confrontation between these two characters. Now, another thing that was controversial in regards to this film is when Alfred lets Vicky Vale into the Batcave. Now, I agree. In principle, it's wrong. But on an emotional level, for the movie, it works. And they address this in the next film, Batman Returns. Now, the Batmobile blowing up Axis chemicals is just absolutely gorgeous and an awesome action sequence. I love that they use model work all throughout the film. The film looks beautiful, way better than CGI, and it looks like it just came out today. And here we have another iconic scene at the parade as the Joker tries to poison the citizens of Gotham with his balloons when he says, "He stole my balloons," as the Batman takes away the balloons with the Batplane. And I love the iconic scene when the Batplane eclipses the moon. I love how the Joker tempts Batman to kill him. And this would be echoed again in the film The Dark Knight. Now, the Joker is either extremely insane or extremely lucky or a little bit of both to survive this attack by the Batplane. And when he pulls out that huge 357 revolver, bam, another iconic scene. This film is just stuffed with so many awesome moments. Now, the final showdown between the Joker and the Batman at the church is so based on German expressionism. It's outstanding. I love the tone. I love the aesthetic, the looming statues of the gargoyles, the huge accentuated church. It's great. It's dark. It's gloomy. It's perfect. Batman nearly fights to the death against this henchman, this huge black dude that almost kicks his ass. And I love how brutal it is. And the fight between the Joker and Batman is funny and brutal at the same time. I love how the Joker is just no match for Batman and he hurts himself punching him in his stomach and at the same time still performing all these gags like the chattering teeth that fall out of his mouth and saying, "You would hit a guy with glasses when he puts the glasses on." It's hilarious. I love when he looks at the gargoyle statue and says, "What are you laughing at?" And "Here, let me lend you a hand." And it's a total gag. His hand detaches and it terrifies Vicky Vale. And now we all know what happens. The Batman uses his grappling gun to tie the Joker to the gargoyle statue, what ultimately dislodges off the roof of the church and causes the Joker to fall to his death. And even in death, the Joker has the last laugh as he has an audio tape of his laugh playing on repeat when the police discover his dead corpse. And that last shot of Batman standing on top of that building, looking at the bat signal with Danny Elfman's epic music playing is so iconic. And as a Batman fan, it almost brings a tear to my eye. Again, it's like the comic book leapt off the pages and onto the silver screen. This film is an absolute classic and I highly recommend it. The directing by Tim Burton is awesome. The music by Danny Elfman is awesome. Cinematography by Roger Pratt, beautiful. The casting is excellent. The art direction by Terry Ackland Snow and Nigel Phelps is just gorgeous. And the set decoration by Peter Young is beautiful. I love it. The soundtrack by Prince is great. And last but not least, the dialogue, the screenplay by Sam Hamm and Warren Scarron is just unforgettable. Thank you guys for listening to this review of 1989's The Batman. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and share. Take care, people. One love.